In the heart of Philadelphia, a mysterious message began appearing on roads and pavements in the early 1980s, sparking a decades-long puzzle that would captivate the nation. The phrase Toynbee idea in movie 2001 Resurrect Dead on Planet Jupiter was embedded into the ground, leaving behind a trail of cryptic clues and unanswered questions. This message, known as the Toynbee tile, would go on to appear in numerous cities across the United States, from New York to Chicago, and even as far as South America. The tiles were not limited to major cities, as they also appeared in smaller towns and rural areas, suggesting a widespread and coordinated effort. The sheer scale of the phenomenon is staggering, with over 500 tiles estimated to have been laid across the country. As the tiles continued to appear, they sparked a mixture of fascination and frustration among the public, with many people attempting to decipher their meaning. The Toynbee tiles, as they came to be known, were not just random graffiti, but rather a carefully crafted message that seemed to point to a specific idea or concept. The reference to movie 2001 is widely believed to be a nod to the classic science fiction film 2001, A Space Odyssey, directed by Stanley Kubrick.
This film, released in 1968, was a groundbreaking work of science fiction that explored themes of human evolution, technology, and extraterrestrial life.
The connection between the film and the Toynbee tiles is intriguing, as it suggests that the creator of the tiles may have been inspired by the film's themes and ideas. However, the meaning behind Resurrect Dead on Planet Jupiter remains shrouded in mystery. The tiles themselves were made of asphalt or linoleum, with the message stamped into them in a distinctive, handwritten font. The use of a handwritten font adds a personal touch to the message, suggesting that the creator of the tiles may have been attempting to convey a sense of intimacy or urgency. You're watching Mind Blown, where we uncover the stories that defy explanation. One of the earliest and most tantalizing clues surfaced not on a street, but on the airwaves. In 1983, a caller phoned into Larry King's late-night radio talk show on the Mutual Broadcasting System and described an idea about using Jupiter's immense radiation to molecularly reconstruct dead human cells and bring people back to life. The caller specifically referenced the movie 2001, A Space Odyssey, and the writings of Arnold Toynbee. The call was brief, and King moved on to other topics, but years later researchers tracked down a recording and recognized the phrasing as nearly identical to the text on the tiles. That radio call is now considered one of the strongest links between the tile maker's philosophy and a datable public event. The name on the tiles points directly to Arnold Joseph Toynbee, a British historian born in London on April 14, 1889, who died on October 22, 1975. Toynbee devoted much of his career to writing a study of history, a 12-volume analysis of the rise and fall of 26 civilizations, published between 1934 and 1961. His central argument was that civilizations grow when creative minorities respond successfully to challenges, and they decay when those leaders fail. Toynbee never wrote about resurrecting the dead on Jupiter, yet whoever created the tiles fused his name with Kubrick's film into a single cryptic sentence. The pairing suggests the tile maker drew a personal philosophy from both sources, merging Toynbee's ideas about civilizational rebirth with the film's depiction of human transformation beyond Earth. It is a strange marriage of academic history and cinematic science fiction, but it became the ideological backbone of every tile pressed into American asphalt for the next 3 decades. The method used to place the tiles was itself a small feat of guerrilla engineering. Investigators and documentary filmmakers later determined that the tiles were likely made by carving or pressing letters into a sheet of linoleum, then coating the piece with tar paper and wrapping it in layers to protect it from the elements. The wrapped tile would be placed face down on a road surface, often at a busy intersection. Over days, passing cars and trucks would compress the piece into the softened asphalt, and weather would gradually peel away the protective layers, revealing the message underneath. Some researchers believe the tile maker used a vehicle with a hole cut into the floor of the passenger compartment, allowing the tiles to be dropped onto the road without ever stepping out of the car. This would explain how tiles could appear on heavily trafficked streets in the middle of the night without witnesses. Several tiles discovered in Philadelphia carried more than just the standard one-line message. These so-called manifesto tiles contained extended rants pressed into side panels flanking the central phrase. The text accused major media outlets and journalists at the Philadelphia Inquirer of conspiring against the tile maker. One manifesto tile, found near 13th and Chestnut Streets, included accusations against the Knight Ridder Media Company and referenced a belief that the tile maker's ideas had been stolen and suppressed. The tone was paranoid and rambling, shifting between complaints about neighborhood harassment and grand declarations about the resurrection concept. These longer tiles gave investigators their strongest clues about the psychological profile of the creator, suggesting someone who felt persecuted and who had likely been placing tiles since at least the mid-1980s. For years, the tiles remained an underground curiosity, known mainly to residents of Philadelphia and a handful of internet forum users who documented sightings. That changed when a Philadelphia artist and musician named Justin Duerr became obsessed with the mystery. Duerr had first noticed a tile in 1994 as a teenager and spent more than a decade photographing and cataloging every tile he could find. He created maps tracking their locations, corresponded with other tile hunters, and dug through public records looking for any individual who matched the clues left behind in the manifesto texts. His research eventually drew the attention of filmmaker John Foy, who began following Duerr's investigation with a camera crew in the mid-2000s. The result was the 2011 documentary Resurrect Dead, The Mystery of the Toynbee Tiles, which premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in January of that year. John Foy won the award for Best Director in the documentary category at Sundance, bringing international attention to a mystery that had simmered for nearly 30 years. The film follows Duerr and two fellow researchers, Steve Wainick and Colin Smith, as they trace the manifesto tiles, the Larry King broadcast, and a series of shortwave radio transmissions back to a single Philadelphia resident. The documentary names Severino Verna, a reclusive man living in the Kensington neighborhood of Philadelphia, as the most likely creator of the tiles. Neighbors told the filmmakers that Verna was a quiet, older man who rarely left his home and who had a car with an unusual modification to its undercarriage. The name James Morasco also appears repeatedly in the investigation. In 1983, a man using that name wrote a letter to the Philadelphia Inquirer describing a plan to colonize Jupiter with the resurrected dead, and the letter's language closely mirrors the tile text. Duerr and his team eventually concluded that James Morasco was likely a pseudonym used by Severino Verna, though they were never able to confirm this with absolute certainty because Verna refused to speak with them. When the filmmakers approached his home, a woman believed to be a family member turned them away at the door. Verna has never publicly acknowledged any connection to the tiles, and no law enforcement agency has ever charged anyone in connection with placing them. Beyond the borders of the United States, Toynbee tiles have been documented in at least 4 South American cities. Tiles were found embedded in streets in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and in Santiago, Chile. Reports also surfaced of tiles in Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo, Brazil. The South American tiles use the same linoleum and tar construction method and carry the same English language message, which raises questions about whether the creator personally traveled to those cities or whether accomplices or imitators were involved. The Buenos Aires tile, found on Avenida de Mayo near the Plaza de Mayo, is one of the best preserved examples outside North America and was photographed and cataloged by Argentine street art researchers in the early 2000s. The appearance of the original tiles slowed noticeably after 2006, but a new wave of so-called copycat tiles began appearing around the same period. The most well-known group of imitations are the House of Hades tiles, which use a similar construction method but carry different messages, often with political or philosophical themes unrelated to the Toynbee idea. These copycat tiles have been found in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and several East Coast cities.
Their existence complicates the historical record, making it harder for researchers to determine which tiles are originals and which are the work of admirers or pranksters.
Some tile enthusiasts maintain detailed online databases that classify each known tile by location, date of first sighting, condition, and whether it is believed to be an original or a copy. Today, many of the original Toynbee tiles have been destroyed by road repaving, weathering, and routine street maintenance. A tile that once sat prominently at the intersection of Broad and Walnut Streets in downtown Philadelphia, one of the most photographed examples, was lost when the road was resurfaced in the early 2010s. Preservationists have attempted to protect surviving tiles by documenting their GPS coordinates and photographing them in high resolution. The Toynbee tile at the corner of 16th and Chestnut Streets in Philadelphia was still partially visible as recently as 2019, though much of its text had worn away. For a phenomenon that depended on physical presence in public space, the slow disappearance of the tiles adds a strange layer of poignancy, as the very roads that carried the message are now erasing it. The Toynbee tiles occupy a rare space in American culture, sitting somewhere between street art, outsider philosophy, and unsolved mystery. They predate the internet age, yet they became one of its most enduring rabbit holes, with Reddit threads, Wikipedia deep dives, and YouTube documentaries introducing each new generation to the story. The 2011 Sundance Award gave the mystery a level of mainstream visibility it had never had before, and Justin Duerr's years of research transformed what had been scattered urban folklore into a coherent, if still incomplete, narrative. Whether Severino Verna is truly the sole mind behind the tiles, or whether the truth is stranger still, the Toynbee tiles remain one of the most unusual, unsolicited messages ever delivered to the American public, pressed into the pavement one intersection at a time. Subscribe to Mind Blown and hit that notification bell so you never miss another story that challenges everything you thought you knew.